Geek Out!
You wanted the best, you got me instead. This is another episode of Kiss My Podcast. Today's episode... Yeah, we're still doing this. Today's episode is Hot in the Shade. 1989's Hot in the Shade. With me, as always, unfortunately for his sake, young Samuel.
Yeah, I'll jump on this grenade, sure.
Hey, man. Hey. There's only, next one's not bad. This was released October 17th, 1989, the day after my brother was born.
Cool.
So that only matters to me, I guess. That's not something pertaining to Kiss fans. Although he is, like, the biggest Kiss fan I know. So, recorded from July to August of 1989. And the studio is the Fortress, Hollywood, California. What the fuck they not doing in New York? They're in California now. But they've been in California before. That's okay. Produced by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, of course. 3 singles this time, ladies and gentlemen. Hide Your Heart, October 17th, 1989, so when the album drops. Forever, January 5th, 1990. We're in the 90s.
We're now in the 90s.
Yeah, and Rise to It, April 1st, 1990. No, that was not an April Fool's joke. Rise to It, unfortunately, is a song.
It's the album opener.
Yes, released by Kiss. So if you like this album, you're in luck because it's long as shit.
Yeah.
It's
Is it the longest Kiss album?
I don't
Not counting live albums.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Carnival of Souls is pretty long.
Yeah, but that's unfinished.
But
isn't it? Or is that?
Yeah, no, I mean it's that's a whole weird thing. But it's long as shit. It's almost an hour long. It's 15 tracks. It's definitely the most Kiss tracks, I guess. Yeah. We'll say it is. Fuck it. We'll say it is. It's the longest. It's an hour. And like I said, 15 tracks. Kind of an awful trend of the Unmasked era. Really, none of these songs were played live. Even when they were like touring for it, barely any of them were played live. Only a handful. And now, if you see them live, if Forever squeaks in there, it's a miracle. So,
but a terrible miracle.
Yeah. So not a lot's performed from these albums here. The sad thing about this is the last one to feature Eric Carr. He will appear in 2 credits on Revenge, but he passes away in 1991, and Revenge is released in 92. So this is the end of the 80s era of Kiss, and unfortunately is the end of Eric Carr in the band. I have a little thing I'll talk about him at the end to end the podcast, this episode with, because that's more important. I think Eric Carr's legacy to Kiss than necessarily just this album. Because it is sad that he's not here. Still relevant in Kissdom and KISStory. Now, way back when we talked about a band called Black and Blue that Gene Simmons helped produce and work with, and one of the guitar players in that band is named Tommy Thayer. Now, of course, Tommy Thayer is going to come into prominence big time in a couple episodes in terms of like full-on membership. But he is important for this album because he does write a couple tracks, or co-writes a couple tracks, and he plays acoustic and electric on some of the songs as well. So I mean, Tommy Thayer, he is, love it or hate it, the spaceman now in Kiss, and so his involvement in Kiss goes back over 30 years, almost over 30 years. Just pushing close to 30 years. The album does go gold, like most Kiss albums do, and Forever does become their highest charting single in the U.S. since Beth, and it does that by hitting number 8 on the charts. The album art, Mitchell Canner designs the cover, and I'm glad, I hope he got paid. I'm glad, but it's nothing. I'm not a fan of the cover.
It's a nothing cover.
It's nothing. I mean, it's come on.
It's just it's a Sphinx with sunglasses
on, and like a little postal thing on the top, and just
Yeah.
like hot in the shade.
It's like if somebody took the Power Slave cover and made it like
Shit.
shit.
Oh God, Power Slave. I wish you were doing that. Rhyme the Ancient Mariner. Anyway, first track. You have anything else to add, Sam? Do you have anything you want to add about?
I think the entire album is them trying to channel Bon Jovi. And I think you can kind of see that in the first track where they're like, hey, look, we can use acoustic guitars. This is like Wanted Dead or Alive. Yeah. And then it's not Wanted Dead or Alive.
Yeah, how sad is that like Kiss is like trying to be other bands when like they were their own band
most
before
of the
these
80s.
Other bands even started.
Most of the 80s, really. Starting with What comes after? Lick It Up? It's
fucking
Animalize.
My least favorite Kiss album.
Yeah, starting with Animalize, it's really just like, look what we can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Bon Jovi, not bad. I mean, bad, but not a bad.
Poison would be another influence, I would say.
Fuck. No, I'd say more Animalize with Poison, but yeah, that's Bon Jovi's definitely here. Shit. I still like doing this podcast, by the way, in case you guys didn't know. I still do. It's just fuck. Yeah.
We suffer for our art.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting to the other side of the bridge, man. Land ho. So anyway, Rise to It, opening track. Written by Paul Stanley and Bob Halligan Jr. and sung by Paul Stanley. But Bob Halligan Jr. has worked with Judas Priest, Cher, and Blue Oyster Cult, to name a few. I do like the acoustic intro. I mean, I think it's interesting.
It catches you off guard.
Yeah, it does. Unfortunately, like a lot of this track, it's definitely a lot of this tracks on here though. They might have a moment or two of like, oh, and then it just goes back to Schlockville.
A lot of this album is power, like to kind of build on like the every rose has it very Poison. A lot of power ballads on this album.
Yeah. I have Schlock on my notes a lot written on here. Schlock. Just boring. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of this album is just boring. They're doing the same thing. There's no fire to it, man. Like and it's just they don't the 80s outside of like Lick It Up, because I guess Lick It Up was new-ish to them, but these albums are just the grind of the same thing. And like Sam was saying, they're trying to turn into these bands that they don't need to be. Paul does play slide guitar on this, by the way, which is that's nice. Throwing a little tools of the track. You get, of course, the chanting vocals. Jesus Christ,
very arena rock.
Yeah. And again, like barely any of these were played in arenas. So, like I said, who knows? We may just fly through this. We may not. But "Betrayed" is the next track. Sung by Gene Simmons.
By this album.
Yo, shit. Sung by Gene, written by Gene and Tommy Thayer, so he gets that holy credit there. Like I said, he does provide acoustic and electric guitars on this. My notes. Oh God, I'd come off a long shift writing these notes. So it says, I'll just read you exactly what it says for "Betrayed." Tommy Thayer rocking a credit, provides acoustic and electric guitar on the song. Nothing more, same thing. It's all the same shit.
You're just losing your mind right
now. And we're on track 2. So yeah, not a lot on this one, guys, on this track, unfortunately. Hide Your Heart, though, some interesting stuff about the third track, sung by Mr. Paul Stanley. Written by Paul Stanley, Desmond Child, and Holly Knight. Now, we've talked about Desmond Child, the famed songwriter. He's written a lot with Kiss, done a lot with Kiss, and Meatloaf, of course, and a lot of other people. Holly Knight, though, is one of the most successful songwriters in history. Listen to this murderer's row here, you fuck. Everyone from Kiss's own Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley, separately, of course. Meatloaf, Ozzy Osbourne, Heart, Rod Stewart, Cheap Trick, Bon Jovi, and Aerosmith. So she's and that's just a handful. I just went through the list and picked some artists I like. Now, I think most people would say that this song is more well known in the Bonnie Tyler version.
Bonnie Tyler, right?
I didn't know that either existed until today. To be fair, I will say Bonnie's is better though. It's just her voice works better for it. That raspy vocal. And this is the song that begins the Baby Talk lyrics, just the shanana, boo boo stuff.
Blink 182's bread and butter.
Yeah,
I love Blink 182.
Yeah, this song does try to add characters, which is really weird. Like tell like this like kind of like this is like a stretch, but like Springsteen-esque lyrics with like characters of like where they're going, what they're doing. It feels weird for Kiss. Like that's not what they normally do. Like of course you have Christine 16, Dr. Love, all that stuff, but it's just that is like that character. This is trying to like, and I guess props for that, but it's just I don't know. It felt weird, not a place for Kiss. Phil Ashley also provides keyboards on this track. I think he'll crop up one or two more times on this album. Prisoner of Love. God, the titles on this are some of my least favorite titles in Kiss history. There's one coming up. Oh, there's one coming up. It's like the worst title of all time. Anyway, Prisoner of Love, sung by Gene, written by Gene and Bruce Kulick. Of course, Bruce Kulick still hanging in there, rocking it on the guitar here. This song, to me, it sounds like it belongs to the intro video for...
It belongs in a museum.
Yeah. It sounds like it belongs to the intro video for WCW NWO Revenge, where it has like that truck driving. It's like, and like the lightning goes off, and Sting is sitting there. He just like, Sting becomes lightning, and he's standing there, and the truck driver goes, "What?" It's like, and like you just see everyone doing their moves. That's one of my favorite games of all time. WCW NWO Revenge. Check it out, man. It's a great game. Yeah, that's one of my favorite games. It's definitely top 3 N64 games of all time. There's some cool riffage in this, though. You know, again, I'm trying my best here, guys, to get inspired by something on this. And you know, there's some cool riffage and some good, you know, solo work by Mr. Bruce Kulick. You know, the guy can play. You know, that's evident, obvious. He also can write some good stuff, but you know, not the biggest fan of this song. But I started to ask myself while doing this, why does this album have to be so long? You know, why do these songs have to be close to 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, and then fade out? Why do they have to be that long? And it's not because they're adding new things to it. It's just verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It's just the same thing. They're not adding new things. They're not breaking stuff down. For the most part, it's just the same thing over and over again. I will say Gene does provide some pretty cool or shows a pretty cool vocal range on this track. I did like that. That was kind of interesting because, like I've said a million times, my favorite vocalist in Kiss is Gene Simmons. Ready My Body. Sung by Paul Stanley, written by Paul Stanley and Mr. Halligan Jr. Is back again. Another interesting intro, like we were talking about.
Yeah. They're going for the power ballad.
And fucking Paul, man, he does the here we go. You know, here we go. We've been going for 5 tracks, Paul. Let's get it going.
We're only a third of the way through the album.
Oh my God. Let's get it going, man. Come on, Paul. I will say that even though I hate spoken word stuff in songs, yes, this at least breaks up the what the fuck was the word I'm looking for? Monotony. Thank you. I totally just blanked. I was gonna say minutia. That's not shit.
Minutia is a thing. But.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't the word I was looking for. But at least there's something different going on. But true to form, the song finds its way back, takes the ramp back to Schlockville. And I don't know, man, like where does this fall in terms of Kiss albums for you? Because your least favorite still is Crazy Crazy Night, Crazy Nights. I know you hate that one.
Yeah, it's probably still my least favorite. What I like about this, I like some of the intros. There's 2 tracks in the latter half of the album that I think are all right. Like what's Love You to Hate Me or something like that, or Love Me to Hate You. I thought that I like the guitar riff there. I like there's some interesting stuff. Shits. And I like the album closer a bit.
Yeah, I mean that's probably my favorite one, but you know, we'll get there in time. Remember that in The Exorcist? In time. Fucking creepy. Loves a Slap in the Face. Sung by Gene, written by Gene and Vinny Poncia, who we know. I said, so is this album. Also more baby talk vocals, the na baby talk vocals. Sorry, that's all I got on that one. Forever. Now this is the big track from the album. I have I think either it was me or my brother had a like compilation of just, you know, we had it just basically a glorified official mix of Kiss through the years. And there's Lick It Up, Forever, and God Gave Rock and Roll to You. Those are the only 3 unmasked songs on the entire thing. Unmasked era stuff. And I don't like it that much. I mean, it's huge because the video, MTV era, the video was huge. The video was just Kiss sitting in a room looking sad, playing the song. It's written by Paul Stanley. Oh, I'm sorry, sung by Paul Stanley, written by Paul Stanley, And Michael Bolton. That's right. Michael Bolton helped write the song. That's right. It's again, we've talked about ballads a lot with Kiss, especially in the 80s. It's not like a bad ballad, but it's just power ballad, but just not interesting. I don't know if you felt any different on it, or if you liked it anymore. It's just kind of
it's just a generic 80s power ballad, man.
And again, I think a lot of this is right for the video, because this was the #1 video for a while on MTV on the request stuff. It was getting a lot of airplay, and that's helping album sales. It's helping the single sales. And again, #8 on the U.S. charts, the highest since Beth in the U.S. So it's they've been chasing Beth since Beth. You know what I mean? And they finally got it with this.
Almost every Kiss album since Destroyer has their attempt to Beth.
Yeah. Yep. Now, there is some nice acoustic stuff by Paul. Paul plays acoustic track on this one. Bruce Kulick does provide bass. Okay. And Phil Ashley is back on the keyboards. Unsung hero, Phil Ashley. Love Actually, Phil Ashley. Track 8, Silver Spoon, baby. Sung by Paul Stanley and written by Paul Stanley and Vinnie Poncia again. Charlotte Crosley, Valerie Pinkston, Kim Edwards Brown provide the backing vocals for like the last 30 seconds as they fade out, but they're there. Trust me, I heard it. They jump pretty quick back to Schlockville. I mean, you could say forever Schlockville. I wouldn't fight you on that. It's but this definitely gets right back. It's like they pause for a second, they get right back to where they were. But I mean, this, I will say, I know I've kind of joked with it with previous albums, but for me, seriously, this is the album I've had the hardest time trying to just break down and talk about track to track. It's really difficult because there's just nothing going on for me, and I don't know, man. It's just, luckily this is the end of it. I mean, like I said, we'll get to Revenge. I really like Revenge. We'll get to Psycho Circus. I mean, we're getting to the home stretch. And I guarantee you I still love Kiss, but this is part of the experiment to see what happens, and unfortunately exactly what I thought would happen happened. Track 9, Cadillac Dreams, sung by Gene.
I actually rather like Cadillac Dreams.
Yeah, it's not bad. Written by Gene and Vinnie Poncia, man. Poncia! He's got another track after this too, but no. Pat Regan provides brass on this, and a cool solo from Bruce. I think there's some really nice harmonies. Although I did write "shut up" on here. But no, I mean, there are some nice solo stuff from Bruce. I mean, Bruce, Eric Carr's drumming is consistent throughout. I mean, that's all, and that's almost doesn't have to be said. I mean, it's throughout since the first time he plays on a Kiss album. But and the vocals are the coolest part. I think of this, the harmonies. There's some cool stuff with old Jeaner on vocals. So, Cadillac Dreams, a kind of weird, kind of interesting title. It kind of is. Doesn't sound like a Kiss title, but it sounds almost like a Pink Cadillac, Springsteen, Clint Eastwood. King of Hearts, sung by Paul Stanley. I
actually dig King of Hearts a bit too.
Okay, right on, man. Yeah. Wait till you read my note. I read my note. Written by Paul Stanley, Vinnie Poncia. I mean, Jesus Christ, this guy in the band, fuck. I mean, he's knocking him out. Another cool guitar intro. That intro is one of my favorite moments on the album.
Again, yeah, so there's some really cool intros on this.
And then, all caps, Schlockville, you stupid fucks. That's what I wrote. So, again, nice intro. Now, this title coming up here is, I may go as far to say, my least favorite album title.
Or song title.
Song title by Kiss, ever. The street giveth and the street taketh away. Sung by Gene, written by Gene and Tommy Thayer. Tommy's back.
Yeah, Tommy's back, and then he rejoins in what, like 2002?
No, because he's
when does he become Spaceman?
Oh boy.
I want to say it's 2002.
Yeah, it might be 2002 because Ace is there for the farewell tour, and then they go like, we're going to tour again. He's like, I thought it was a farewell tour, and he pieces out. And that's right. They hang on the car. They hang on to Peter Criss for a while. So yeah, Thayer comes in. I mean, Thayer's basically teaching them their solos Ace's solos again before the reunion junk. But yeah, Tommy's back on this. He's providing acoustic and electric guitars. I hate the title. It's a bullshit title. At this point I was getting really annoyed listening to this album. And then you get You Love Me to Hate You. Getting there, Paul. But yeah, sung by Paul, written by Paul Stanley and Desmond Child.
For some reason, I like the guitar work on this track.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I like Paul's vocals a lot on this one. There's some cool stuff.
You're always like, this is a Sam Stone track.
Mm-hmm.
This is as Sam Stone a track as anything on Hot in the Shade gets.
Fair enough. Hey, I like that. Good. Good.
Gold star.
Yeah,
pat on
gold
the head.
star. Honor. Integrity. Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, Sam, is this album. Written by Gene, sung by Gene, and fucking shit, I keep doing this whole goddamn album. Fuck. Sung by Gene, written by Gene and Vinny Poncia. He's fucking back. I just wrote, this is the only note for this one. Poncia's all over this album. He is, man. Good for him. Fuck yeah. Get the royalties, man. Fucking live a life. Good for you, motherfucker. Good for you, man. Vinny Poncia, baby. Probably my favorite 80s member of KISS. The next track, important. Little Caesar.
Which is my other, yeah.
Yeah. It is sung by Eric Carr.
Yes.
Written by Eric Carr, Simmons, and Adam Mitchell. We've talked about Adam Mitchell before. Eric Carr provides vocals on this. Now, there's a Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, which is a compilation album. They have a he sings Beth. They do a version of that. Eric Singer sings Beth now because he's the drummer. He's the cat man. I think Eric Carr's got a pretty good voice. All the guitar work on this track is done by Bruce Kulick, and of course Eric Carr does the vocals and the drums. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good track. I mean, I wish more of this album had a little bit to it. Maybe it's because it breathes some life into it with Eric Carr coming in, and it's not just being Gene and Paul, and you get a different voice in there. But that was a nice little breakup in there to hear that. The last track, though, I think we kind of talked about it. I guess it's my favorite track on the album. Boomerang, sung by Gene, written by Gene and Bruce Kulick. There's some great. I mean, again, because it is technically the last studio album when Eric Carr was still alive, there's some great drum work in this track, if they're going to go out like that. Some really great double kick work by Eric. He hit the drums like a son of a bitch, which is one of the pros to him being the drummer in KISS for as long as he was. I mean, he brought some heaviness with them. This does borderline a bit of thrash going on, which is cool. I've always said, KISS is not a metal band, but there's the metal elements in there, and this definitely has it. Speed thrash metal elements in there, but not necessarily the whole song. And of course, that brings with it some truly dizzying lead work by Bruce Kulick. He's been showing that since day one in KISS. So he's got some cool stuff going there. And again, it's fun. There's some stuff going on that's kind of fun. But unfortunately, I mean, God, just another kind of uninspired schlock from KISS in the 80s, the Unmasked stuff. And like I said, it ends the 80s era. And unfortunately, Eric Carr's time in the band. Now, I don't want to. There's really no. We kind of summarized the album. We talked about it. That's not that important. I want to take a moment to talk about Eric Carr a little bit at the end of this, because this is the last album with him. He passes away from heart cancer on November 24th, 1991, the same day as Freddie Mercury, which is a fucking wallop, and a real bad day for music. So he passes away before the release of Revenge, which comes out in 92. I'll go a little more in depth, of course, when we get to Revenge. We talk about Revenge, about some of the backstory to him and him showing up for some of the music videos to provide backing vocals for God Gave Rock and Roll to You. And there's a great track called I think it's the Car Jam 81, I think, where it's kind of like a drum solo and a jam, which is a nice little tribute to Eric Carr. And of course, the album's dedicated to him, because this is the album that brings in Eric Singer, who will eventually become the next era Catman after Peter Criss leaves or is fired or whatever. And I know that, like, yeah, I mean, look, we've been rough on this era, you know.
Not. I mean, no fault of Eric Carr.
Mm-hmm.
2, they haven't been doing themselves any favors like Paul and Gene.
Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, it's this is not a moment of where I'm taking that all back. I still believe all that with the majority of the '80s albums.
I've heard like Eric Carr was always there was always this level of dissatisfaction that he wasn't a full member of the band.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. I mean it's kind of a glorified. Yeah, you know, you're just to replace. You're not just a replacement member, but I got that vibe. I've read stuff with Eric Carr about that. But the one thing I will stand by as well with the negative and criticism of this era is that Eric Carr is and forever will be one of the most loved members of KISS. And a lot of that we've talked about, it comes from, it's like the Jason Newsted thing when he joined Metallica. He was a fan of Metallica. Eric Carr was a fan of KISS before he joined KISS. It's the fucking dream job, you know. They gave him his own makeup for Christ's sake, which I still think's fucking awesome. I like the Fox makeup more than the Catman makeup. You barely see it. But you know, he changed his last name so it had the same syllables as Peter Criss, so it would roll off the tongue when you said their names together. You know, Eric Carr wanted desperately to be embraced by the KISS fans, and I don't think there's any question that he was, of course, embraced by the KISS fans. You talk about anything with KISS, even if you talk to someone, another KISS fan, and you disagree on everything, favorite albums, favorite songs, you know, whether this, you know, they should be wearing the Starman makeup and the Spaceman makeup and the Catman makeup. They love Eric Carr, and again, and even in the most salty, savage backstab moments of the memoirs that I read with Gene or Paul, or the most brutally honest moments, you know, they go to the funeral. They're devastated. Like, still to this day, you can tell Gene, you know, Gene's a very emotional guy. I mean, he puts on that front of, you know, the demon and all that kind of stuff. But you could tell, like, Gene really, truly cared for, and so did Paul, of course. Paul goes out of his way to talk a lot about Eric, and have, you know, funny stories of him on the road and playing together. And I think unfortunately, one of the things is, I mean, we get to see it in live videos, but not being there to experience the live Eric Carr on drums. To hear that guy, he fucking hit the drums so hard. He turned Detroit Rock City into not just a rock song, but a hard rock song. You know, I urge you to go find. You
would go as far as to call Carr the best drummer KISS has ever
I would
had.
think so, yeah. I mean, you know, I think Eric Singer is a great drummer in KISS. Eric Singer is part of my favorite lineup in KISS. Well, I think the best gelled, musically talented. But I think Carr is, yeah, he had the big drums, the 80s style, it was smooth, and I think something that you can't measure, it's not something you can check on a chart with drummers. It goes with any instrument, but the reason I like Mike Portnoy so much, or Roger Taylor or Ringo Starr, they're having fun playing the drums. And Eric Carr said, you know, he remembered watching Ringo play the drums, you know, Ed Sullivan, and him having fun, and that was the most important thing. And so I urge you to, you know, to not just watch the music videos, but watch the live performances of them. You know, I think KISS was still, we're just doing the studio albums, but KISS was still a great live band in the 80s. They're playing in front of hundreds of thousands of people through, you know, tours. You know, they're going crazy. They're still playing the makeup era stuff. It's not, you know, they're not playing it. You know, they throw in a little 80s kind of like vibe to it on some of the tracks. But that's where I think you really appreciate Eric Carr, his participation and being a full member of KISS. You know, I just, you know, again, the enthusiasm that he had, and just the huge talent. I'm sorry that he's not still around. You know, I think it's a bummer that, and again, for him and Freddie Mercury to die on the same day is just fucking insane. We're gonna talk about him more on Revenge, because there's some stories that the band talks about. There's kind of a bittersweet story about him in one of the videos, you know, getting him out there for the video. So yeah, I mean, you know, the main thing is, you know, thanks to Eric Carr for the you know, the hard work he put in the KISS, the dedication, and helping KISS stay together. I mean, through some really tough times. He did not have an easy job. He came into a very difficult time in KISS.
He's the Kyle Rayner
Fuck yeah.
Kiss.
The Kyle Rayner of Kiss. Fuck yeah. I'll
Torchbearer.
take that. And he just beat the shit out of the drums. Just one of the best around. Of course, he'll always live on in Kiss's music, man. And I wanted this episode to be more about a dedication to Eric Carr than anything else, because it really is kind of the end of that era. And yeah, I mean, he brought much needed life back into Kiss, an edge to Kiss when they needed it most. So rest in peace, Eric Carr, and remember, kids, rock and roll all night and party every day.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday, and you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.